the exchange rate. See what is the context here? So recently we can say saw the headlines wherein Indian rupees is plummeted to the all-time low, crossing 77 rupees first time in against the US dollar. Okay, so in this context, we'll see everything about this exchange rate and fall of this exchange rate, right? And specifically now, why there is heavy fall in the exchange rate of Indian rupee with respect to dollar. So first we'll see what does it mean by exchange rate. So as you can see here, the exchange rate means this is something, the value of one currency with respect to other country's currency. So different countries have different currencies, right? So all the currencies will not have the same value. That means the value of $1 is equal to cannot be $1, the 1 rupee, right? So all the currencies in the world will have, if they have the same value, you should be exchanging for every $1 for every 1 rupee. You should be getting it, other countries in the same 1 unit, right? But that is not the case here. So there is a different rates values for each different currencies. So that is called as exchange rate. The exchange rate is simply the value of the currency. That means, let's say, that is the Indian rupee with respect to the dollar, or maybe any other country's currency. Okay, so this is when you are deciding the value. That means the $1 is equal to how many rupees? How many rupees? So this is something called as a value, right? So if the value is equal, then $1 is equal to 1 rupee. If the value, the dollar and rupee values are not equal, then obviously you need to give one currency more to get 1 unit of another currency, right? So that is deciding how many rupees is equal to $1 is something called as, the exchange rate. Okay. The point here is, why do we need other countries' currencies? Take the case of example, the dollar only, right? Why do we need dollars? So we need dollars, any other countries' currencies. It is because if we see, India is a now globalized economy. Globalized economy means our economy is integrated with other countries' economies, markets. Market means wherein you can see the place of selling and buying happens. So selling and buying can happen inside India, or selling and buying can happen, one country market to the another country market. That means an Indian person may be selling from India to the person sitting in the US market. So you can see here buying and selling activities happening across two countries. So when you are buying, the selling of the good to the US people, or maybe the Indian people buying goods from the US people, then you need to make the payments, or you will be receiving the payment. Suppose you can say the case of when we are buying anything from the US, anything, okay, we need to make the payment. When we want to make the payment, we cannot make the payment in rupees, because rupee is not their currency. So they always demand their own currency. So when they demand their own currency, Indian people should convert these rupees into the dollars, and these dollars will be used as a payment to the any import that is made from the US, right? So that is why we need dollars. So when we need dollars, we need to know the exchange rate. When we know the exchange rate, a given individual, when he go into any particular Forex company, then he can have an idea that how many rupees I need to fetch to fetch $1, right? So same thing. The other countries people also, when they the American people, if they are buying anything from India, generally they do make the payment in the form of the dollars, because they Indian currency is not widely accepted, right? So that is why they do always make the payment in the form of dollar, and dollars, by taking them, Indian people will convert them into the rupees. Okay, so that is how it goes method. So that is why we need dollars, right? So next thing is, what is Forex market? Forex market means this is two words, that is foreign exchange. So foreign exchange is this is a market. Market means wherein people sell, exchanging two currencies like rupee dollar, rupee euro, rupee or any other currency. So two different currencies are exchanged. That place is called as a market, that is Forex market. So this Forex market, you can see it is part of the financial market. Financial market means it includes so many things like banks, insurance companies, pension funds. So as part of the financial market, one a type of specific market is a Forex market. So in this Forex basket, individuals or anyone can participate, can exchange the currencies, one country's currency with other country's currencies, right? So this market means these are some companies or maybe any of the banks, those who are doing this activity, those though that particular companies are part of this market, right? There are companies in India where their function is, you take the Indian rupees, they will give you dollars, you take the dollars, they will give you rupees. So those are specific institution. Okay, all those institutions are part of the market. People those who are going to those institutions to convert the currencies are also part of this market. So market means not only sellers, it is also buyers. Okay, that means individuals, those who are accessing to these institution, and institutions those who are giving exchanging function is called as the market. So those all of them are part of the Forex market. This is Forex market. In every country you will see in every globalized economy, that means economy is integrated with the world, you can see that there is vibrant Forex market because imports and exports are common. Imports and exports are common means payments and receivables are always in the form of foreign currency, right? And not only that, people are regularly moving from one country to another country for different reasons. When you are going out of the country, you need to fetch the currencies which is valid in the given host country that an individual is going. Anybody those who are coming to India, they need to fetch their currencies, they need to get Indian rupees to make the payments for different kinds of expenditures they are doing inside India, right? Next, there is another thing called as Forex foreign currency account. Foreign currency account is something this is maintained by the government. So on behalf of the government, an agency called as the institution, Reserve Bank of India, to maintain countries, government-owned foreign currency. Government-owned, Indian government-owned foreign currency. Indian government-owned foreign currency means the currency other than the of India, Nepal, or Bhutan, any other country's currency, government of India might be maintaining in this account. Okay, why the Indian government is maintaining these currencies? It is because when we are making trade with those countries, when we are buying anything from those countries, we need to make the payment in the currencies which the given country is interested to take. Okay, clear? So that is why for to import from the given country, that country's currency should be there in our foreign currency account. Okay, clear? So that it can be used as a mode of payment. Okay, next, what does it mean by fall in exchange rate? Fall in exchange rate means simply, you can see that the exchange, as we talked about, exchange rate is something, let's take $1 is equal to something called the 70 rupees. Okay, 70 rupees. And if these 70 rupees, if this exchange rate, if it is fall down to something called as 75 rupees, right? So Indian rupee value, Indian rupees, the number of Indian rupees that you need to make the payment to get $1 is 70 previously. Now you need to make 75 rupees to get one single dollar, right? So here you can see, compared to dollar, Indian rupee value is decreased, right? So decrease in the value of the domestic currency is simply called as fall in exchange rate. Simply called as fall in exchange rate. Next, so this is something, value, worth, or anything, all these things related to finally the same thing. Okay, so when this happens, what will be the consequence? So we'll see the two specific examples. What will happen to the exports, what will happen to the imports? When with respect to dollar, Indian rupee value has fallen down, right? Then what will happen to the exports? Exports will become cheaper. First we'll see the imports. What will happen to the imports? For the imports, you need to make your imports will become more expensive. Expensive means, suppose when there was 70 rupees a dollar, when you are importing anything from the US, okay, let's take you are importing the an Adidas shoe. When you are importing Adidas shoe, here when they are selling it, they always mention it in the dollars, the value. So suppose they mention it as $999, right? $999 is the value of the given Adidas shoe. When the given countries people are importing it, they need to make the payment. Indian people, their burden lies with 499 multiplied by 70 rupees, right? So that is the case previously. Now you can see, now the dollar, rupee value has fallen down to 75 rupees. When it is fall down to 75 rupees, now multiply with the 75. Now what will be the value, right? And previously, now you multiplied with 70, you made this payment. Now you have to multiply with 75 and you will get the number of rupees that you need to make the payment, right? So compared to the previous case here, the number of rupees that Indian person had to make the payment for the same unit of imports is increased. Number of rupees that you need to pay is increased. So it means that imports will become costlier, expensive, right? Clear? It is because of the fall in the exchange rate. And what will happen to the exports? And exports, the exports will become cheaper. That means, suppose when you are exporting anything, you always mention it in the form of rupees, saying that suppose the Indian person is exporting any garment, and the here mentioned it as that garment value is 1,000 rupees. Okay. Now, when the garment value is mentioned at 1,000 rupees, when you are exporting to the US citizen, he will always make the payment in the form of dollars, which is converted. These rupees is converted into dollars. So at this exchange rate, if you are converting into the dollars, right? Suppose let understand that the exchange rate is not 70. Let understand it is 100 rupees. Now, as it is 100 rupees, the number of dollars that the foreign the US national need to pay, right, is $10 for the export that we are making. Now the value of the the given garment value same, but now the exchange rate here it is exchange rate is 100 rupees. Now suppose let understand that the exchange rate is fall down to 200 rupees. Now the number of dollars the given foreign person need to pay is only 5. Right? So you can see that for a foreign person, whatever export that are happening from India, they will become cheaper. That means that is exports will become cheaper. And in the previous case, Indian person compared to in this case here, Indian person need to make the payment more in the form of rupees. This is called imports will become expensive. Okay, clear? So that is the one consequence. There are so many things that can happen with the fall in exchange rate, but just know only these things to understand any news or articles that is may appear. What are the popular currencies in the world? Do you think Indian government is dealing with all the countries and maintaining all the countries' currencies in the world? No, only some of the countries' currencies is maintained by the government. So what are the popular currencies in the world? You can see the most popular currency in the world is US dollar. US dollar is accepted by the any country in the world as a mode of payment for any of the payments. Okay, for any of the payments, most of the countries in the world do accept US dollar as a mode of payment. Okay, as a medium of exchange. US dollar is accepted by the Indian government. Regardless of the domestic currency, US dollar is accepted as the payment from the international the buyers and sellers. Okay, that is the popular currencies that we're talking about. So likewise, when our Indian government we export anything, most of the payments that we do receive not in the form of rupees, we do receive in the form of dollars. Okay, so why do we are receiving in the form of dollars? So that we can use these dollars to make the payments for any of the imports that we are making. Okay, so that is why here these are most popular currency, the most popular among all of them. And next most popular is euro. Euro is popular is because you can see euro is a currency of European Union. That is a 27 union countries, and 27 union countries are using the common currency that is called as euro. Okay, so that is why here it is used as it is the euro is also most popular currency. Okay, and the Chinese yuan, because China is the exporter for a lot of manufactured goods in the world, and that is why here this particular currency is also one of the popular. And another developed country, Japan is also exports a lot of goods, okay, previously, and that is why it's also one of the most popular currency, Japanese yen. And another thing is British pound. So it is the currency of UK, United Kingdom. And this is also another popular currency. These are 5 more, popular currencies in the world, and which are used as a mode of, the medium of exchange for different exports and imports that are happening between the countries. Okay. Next, how the exchange rate is determined. That is the first question. So before we see the fall, how the exchange rate is determined. The exchange rate is determined. Suppose see we are, the free market economy. Free market economy means here government is not controlling the economy. It has left to completely to the people. Okay, so when it is left to the people, that means private, private citizen, they can take the decisions what to produce, how to produce, and how much to produce. Every these decisions can be taken by the individuals of the given country. That is called a free market economy, wherein government is not dictating anything with respect to these 3 questions. And in these free market economies, and India is almost a free market economy, not completely but almost a free market economy. So in this free market economy, exchange rate is decided by simply the equations called as the supply and demand of the rupees and dollars. Okay, so suppose think of a scenario in the beginning, before this at the time of the starting of the trade in the old days. Let assume that on that given first day, 1 rupee value is equal to the $1. That was the first day, right? $1 is equal to the 1 rupee. Okay, so this was the scenario on day 1. But later on, the exchange rate between these two, whether they are staying in the same manner, 1 versus 1, or maybe 1 to any other, it all depends upon the demand for these two currencies in the international market, not in the domestic market. Okay, in the international market, if the more number of traders are demanding for more dollars compared to the rupee, then rupee value will be falling down. If the demand for the dollar is more compared to the rupee value will fall down, right? So this is something called as demand and supply. Demand and supply. When more number of people demanding for the dollars compared to the rupees, then dollar value is increasing, or maybe rupee value is falling down. Okay, so this is simply how the exchange rate is determined. Okay, even now also in the world trade, how many international merchants are demanding for rupees, right, to use it as a mode of payment. It's a easy case, right? The number of the Indian rupees demanded by the world trade, the international traders is limited. And it compared to the dollars, as I told you, dollar is the most famous currency accepted as a medium of exchange by many of the countries. So the demand for these dollars are heavy. Okay, so that is why here the rupee value is always low compared to the dollar. So that's why you can see that somewhere it is standing at something 70 rupees plus. Okay, and continuously it is falling down year after year it is falling down. It is simply because of it that year after year the demand for the dollar is increasing compared to the demand for Indian rupees. That is the simple equation how the exchange rate is determined. Okay, now how the dollar and rupee value is completely decided by the only through demand and supply process? It's not. Majorly it is decided by the demand and supply of the dollar and rupees. Okay, but here sometimes RBI do intervene. RBI do intervene in the foreign exchange market. Foreign exchange market means wherein you can see that one country's currency is being exchanged with the other country's currencies, right? So in this market, RBI do intervene, right? So what does that intervention? Suppose if you see the scenario that $1 is equal to, let's take the case that suppose it is 50 rupees. Okay, $1 is equal to 50 rupees. If this dollar is, suppose rupee value is steeply falling down, let assume that 60 rupees. 60 rupees. You can see that there is a steep fall. Whenever there is a steep fall, our imports will become costlier and exports will become cheaper. That means exporters will lose. On other side here, importers have to pay higher. Importers have to pay higher, right? So that is not a scenario that is helpful for the Indian economy. So in this scenario, when it is, you can see that it is falling down means here the demand for the rupees is decreasing, the dollar demand is increasing. That means demand increase means the supply of compared to the supply of dollars, the dollar demand is increased. right? So to not to happen this, what RBI does is, in its foreign currency account, it have dollars. What it does is, it supplies with dollars. It supplies with dollars. When you are supplying with dollars, it is trying to create a balance between the demand, and it is trying to supply, so that finding an equilibrium between demand and supply of the dollars, so that compared to the dollar, rupee value will not fall down steeply. It may stay at 52 rupees. Okay, it is fine. 2 rupees decrease, the fall is fine, but heavily falling down to these many rupees is something that is not warranted from the imports point of view mainly, right? So that's why sometimes they go RBI do. All the time we cannot see that there is a steep fall in the currency. Whenever there is a steep fall in the currency, RBI do intervene. Same thing, opposite might happen. Sometimes the compared to the dollars, rupee might be demanded by the too many foreign people. When the rupee is demanded, then rupee value is appreciating, right? That appreciating to, let's take the 40 rupees. Then when it is appreciating to 40 rupees, what happens is, it will become a disincentive for the exporters, because exporters will not receive too much money. So to help, this is the scenario, the imports will become costlier. And here 40 rupees means for $1, then exporters will receive less money. That is something, at that time, exporters will not go for heavy exports. If exports are not happening, we cannot earn the dollars. When we are not earning dollars, we cannot make payment to the imports. Okay, so earning dollars is imports, because is important, because we are continuously importing so many goods and services, and we need to make payment for them. We cannot stop imports. Okay, so that is why whenever the appreciation happens, during the time, the exporters may feel that I'm not earning anything, so I will stop exports for brief period till the time exchange rate again come back to somewhere to 50. During this time, what RBI does is, it will intervene. It will supply with more rupees. Okay, and automatically creating a balance between the demand for rupees and supply of the rupees, will be creating an equilibrium. Because of it, you can see it may be stabilized at 41 rupees or 42 rupees, 49 rupees or 48 rupees when compared to the dollar. Okay, so that here exporters will not feel incentivized. Okay, that is how exchange rate is determined in India. Normally, it is left to the market. Market will take demand and supply forces, the exchange rate is decided. Sometimes, whenever there is a steep fluctuations in the exchange rates, then RBI do intervene. Okay, what does it mean by fluctuation? Fluctuation is decided by the RBI itself. According to its different calculation, it will decide what does it mean by fluctuation. That means how much fall is considered as abnormal fall, how much increase is generally called as abnormal increase. Okay, here I, for your understanding, I use 10, the gap, but sometimes 50 to 52 is sometimes the RBI, lot of times RBI consider it as steep fall. Okay, and in within the short notice, if it is fall down to 50 to 51 rupees, is also the the fall in the currencies. Okay, so according to the the calculations of the RBI, it does intervene. So what we have to know here is, when does it intervene doesn't matter, but thing is, sometimes RBI do intervene to create a balance between the exchange rates, and normal times it is left to the market. That is what we have to learn from this exchange rate determination. Okay, next, how the demand for the rupees and the supply of the rupees and the supply of the rupee and other currencies, and demand for rupee, other currencies, how it is determined actually. Okay, so why do you see that there is, sometimes the dollar is heavily demanded? Why do you see that sometimes rupees are heavily demanded? Why do you see that scenario? So this, to understand that, first we need to say, see that what is mean by balance of payments. See, the balance of payments is something like, the overall ledger of how much of the, the rupees is being demanded by the rest of the world, how much of the foreign currencies is determined by the, demanded by the Indians. That means that whatever is going, the rupee, currencies that are leaving out of India, how much is leaving out of India, and how much of the, the money is coming from outside the world to India. If you make a note of all these transactions, money going out of India, money coming into India, you can, if you are making a note of all these things, transaction, then you can see that is called as balance of payments. It is simply a record wherein the movement of the the movement of the currency from the Indian economy to the India to the other countries to India. If you are maintaining, if you are maintaining them in the balance sheet, then that is called a balance of payments. Generally, this balance of payment is divided into two types of accounts. One is current account, another one is capital account. So what does it mean by current account? Suppose you can see the two methodologies wherein the capital, the money will flow to, out of India, money will come to India. The two specific instances is, one is for the trade. Trade means any good or service that is being sold by the Indian people to foreign people, money will come to India. If any foreign good and service imported by the Indian people, money will go out of India, right? So this is something to do with the trade. So trade also have two components. One is something called as goods, which you can see physically, something invisibles, right? Invisibles that you can't see, but you can only, that is called a service, right? So the invisibles that you can't see, but these are also being exchanged between two countries, people, right? So the total trade is surrounded on two things. One is on the trade of goods and trade of invisibles. So here, with respect to goods and invisibles, exports and imports related payments do come and do go out of the country. And if you maintain all those transactions, that particular separate account is called as a current account. That current account you can see again further divided into broadly into two. Okay, one is that goods related transactions in and out, invisibles related transactions in and out. Okay, we are not going deep into what is current account, but broadly we are knowing what is a current account, what does it mean by another one, capital account. The another method, another way money going into, coming into, going out of is that investment purpose. Investment purpose means the, the people, lot of people, those who have savings, they do invest in the economy to get more money, to earn more money, to generate more revenue. So this investment, suppose Indian people, like, we may sometimes we do invest in the economy, like by purchasing shares in the stock market. That is an investment. Okay, Indian people purchasing shares in the Indian stock market, that means we are making investment in our own economy. But we can also another option, right? We can use the same money. We can go to the New York Stock Exchange located in the US, and you can purchase those shares, right? So this is something called as investment in the US. Likewise, US people also can come to India in Indian stock market. They can purchase the shares, right? So that is called as investment. Right, so investment related move, capital also coming into India and going out of India, and investment related transactions, if you are maintaining them, then you can call it as a capital account. Okay, so this is something capital, the investment transaction. The current account is simply, this is transactions related to the trade of goods and invisibles. Okay, in a particular year. Okay, next. What are the factors at present which are which are actually creating a pressure on the rupee value falling down? Okay, the first reason is crude oil prices has gone up. Why crude oil price? What is the problem with the crude oil prices increase? The problem is, out of the total consumption of the different petroleum products in India, 80% of the petroleum products that we do import from other countries. Only 20% of our need is produced in India. Remaining 80% we are importing from the world market. Like India, there are many countries those who are depends upon the imports of this crude oil. And when you're many countries import, depend, the suppliers of this crude oil is limited, but the dependency of on these crude oils is enormous. So that means the availability of this crude oil is crucial. So the crude oil prices has increased recently. It is because in international market, the demand for the crude oil is increased by all the countries. When the demand increased, the supply was constant. What happens is, obviously it will increase the value or the cost of the given crude oil, right? So that's why crude oil prices started increasing. After pandemic, many countries started demanding for higher crude oil, and that because of the higher crude oil, supply is immediately could not able to increase, the increase to meet the demand. The temporary means here in the crude oil market, months together. It takes months to correct the scenario of demand and supply. And because of it, the crude oil prices increase. So when the crude oil prices is increased, right, because of the imbalance between the demand and supply, 80% of India's energy needs are import dependent. Now you see a scenario, crude oil prices is increased. It means that we need to make more in the form of payments, that too in the form of dollars, right? So imports become costlier. It means that we need to make more in the form of dollars for the same unit of the goods or maybe anything products that we are importing. Suppose previously, let assume 1,000 barrels of oil that we are importing. Then at that time the barrel cost is, let assume that 100 rupees, right? The number of the rupees that we need to make payment is 1 lakh rupees, right? Now you can see the per barrel cost, now it is increased to, for our understanding, 150 rupees. How much we need to make payment now? We need to make payment 1,50,000. So are we, here import bill is increased. With this increase in import bill, are we are we importing more barrels of oil? No, we are importing same barrels of oil, but only thing is the per barrel cost is increased. So our expenditure on the given imports is increased. When expenditure is increased, here you can see we need to make the payments in the form of dollars. That means in Indian Forex market, demand for dollars is increased compared to rupees. And because of this increase in demand, you can see that there is fall in the rupee. This is one factor. Okay. Next thing is there is something called as the central banks of US, like Indian Central Bank, RBI. RBI do virtually somehow through different tools that is available with RBI. It will decide what is the interest rates in the Indian economy. Interest rates means if anybody is giving loan or maybe giving taking loans, what is the interest rate for that kind of loans? Majorly banks. So that is influenced by RBI. It is not decided by the RBI, but RBI through its tools available, it influences the interest rates generally which banks do lend to the citizens of the given country. So when that lending rate, interest rates are decided, they could able to influence by the RBI, you can see that central banks majorly do influence the interest rates in the all over economy. So understand this for simplistic understanding, and how that it decide, it is a different process. We'll see it in the another context. But for now, understand, given country central bank can influence the interest rates in the countrywide debt market. That means loan giving, loan taking market. Okay. So likewise here also in US there is a central bank that is called as Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve also do decide the interest, influence the interest rates in the US market like RBI does in the Indian market. So likewise what happened is for so many, the last couple of years, the interest rates in the US market was very low. They kept it very low by the US Federal Reserve. And now they started, so when the interest rates were very low, many people borrowed money from the in the US market by the US investors, and they took all the money to India and they invested in the Indian, like they purchased the Indian shares in the Indian stock market. So that means foreign people invested here because their interest rates are low. They got money for cheaper rates and they invested here. And whatever money they had borrowed here, they could not able to give lending in the US market because in Indian, US market interest rates are very low. So that is why for getting more revenues, they came to India. Now in the US Central Bank has raised the interest rates. Has raised the interest rates means all across the economy interest rates are raising. So when the interest rates are raising in the US market, the people, those who have previously invested in the Indian economy, again they started going back to US. And because of it, you can see there is flight of capital. Flight of the capital, that means Here in this scenario, when more number of people going out of India means they are giving rupees and they are demanding for dollars. If people, investors, foreign investors again going back out of India means whatever rupees they earned, the rupees will be given to the companies in the forex market and they will start demanding for the rupees. So you can see the demand for the dollars, demand started demanding for the rupees. So you can see the demand for the dollars is increased, and demand for dollars increased compared to the rupee means rupee value will fall down, right? Clear? So this is another reason. Third important reason is the direct consequence of the war that is happening in the northern part of the northern hemisphere, Russia-Ukraine war. The war that is happening between two countries, wherein India is nowhere near to those countries, but still we are getting affected because of this war. Why? Like in the globalized economy, many countries are depends upon the imports. Like we are depends on the imports for the crude oil, right? There are different goods that we are depend on the imports, and those some of the imports, the world or maybe India is directly depends upon the supplies from the Russia and Ukraine. What are those specific commodities? Russia is key supplier of the oil, natural gas, coal, and aluminum and wheat. Coal, oil, and the oil, natural gas, and coal. We India does not depend for the imports of the Russia. Generally, European Union, my European market is demand for dependent upon Russia's export of oil, natural gas, and coal. But India is critically dependent upon the aluminum, okay, that is supplied by the Russia. So now aluminum supplies has decreased. Okay, another thing, we in India, wheat is produced in enough quantities. Wheat is produced in enough quantities, so we are not dependent upon the wheat imports from Russia. So with respect to Russia, this is okay. Another thing with respect to Ukraine, and Ukraine is key exporter of wheat and oil seeds. Wheat anyway we are not importing anything, we are producing in enough quantities in India itself. But oil seeds means vegetable oils. With respect to vegetable oils, we are very much dependent upon the world countries. The world countries, especially Ukraine, and you can see in the Asian country, that is Indonesia. So Ukraine is supplier of soybean oil, and Indonesia is supplier of the uh, palm oil. But Indonesia, in Indonesia, the palm oil production has decreased. So that's why the given government imposed the condition that do not export anything the palm oil. So the palm oil exports has decreased from Indonesia, and the supplies has decreased for the India. And soybean oil, obviously because of the war, from Ukraine also we could not able to import the soybean oil. So because of all these things, there was in international market there is a scarcity for the supply of the vegetable oil. Demand is same, but supply decrease, and because of it vegetable oils cost is increased. And that is why you can see in Indian market also, all the vegetable oils, every oil, the cost is almost doubled. And that is what is being complained by the citizens of the given country. And it is because of the direct consequence of we are depending on the imports for these critical oils. And not only these, there are other the commodities like nickel, right? The nickel is also the one of the source, the global supplier is wheat and Russia and Ukraine, and that is used as one of the critical import for the manufacturing of the lithium ion batteries. The lithium ion batteries is used in the electric mobility vehicles. And you can see the world, and especially in India, many of the there is a huge movement that is going on with respect to the automobile sector. Many of the people are going towards adoption of the electric vehicles. But if you want to continuously supply with the uh, supply with the demand of the electric vehicles, you should be having the necessary material for the production of the batteries, lithium ion batteries. But for the manufacturing the critical the given batteries, the critical commodities, actually world is dependent upon the Ukraine and even Russia. But because of this war, the supply has decreased. Now that particular sector is going to get affected, right? The production. Okay. And when these two countries are at war means our exports also decrease to these countries. There are some specific commodities we do export to these countries like tea. So Indian tea is very famous in Ukraine and Russia, but that supply has now we could not able to export it. So that means our rupees not being demanded by large number of people, but another side we started paying more for these vegetable oils, and because of it the payment that we need to make in the form of dollars demand is increased compared to the rupees. Clear? So these are three reasons. There are other reasons, minor reasons that we can add, but these three big reasons are more than enough to show what is the specific pressure, the at present on the Indian rupee. Okay. Next. And in this scenario, what is the role that RBI specifically play? As we had seen in the previous case, that with respect to deciding the exchange rate of rupee versus other currencies, RBI plays sometimes a role when it sees that there is a fluctuations in the exchange rates, right? So looking at the last three scenarios, you can see that dollar, rupees, money that is going out of India is increased compared to the money that is coming into India, because we started paying more for the same amount of imports. So that means going out of India is increased compared to money that is coming into India. And because of it, you can see that Indian rupee demand is decreasing compared to the demand for the international currencies like dollar or euro or anything. And because of it, Indian rupee is falling down. And this scenario will not be reversed until the the Indian exports is increased, until investments is increased, the foreign people investment increased in India. Okay, so unless these scenarios are reversed, right, the Indian rupee demand will not increase to find a balance between the dollar and rupee. Till then, you can see that there is a fall in the India's rupees exchange value. Okay, and in this scenario, RBI to soften, that means to not to decrease heavily, not to fall heavily this exchange rate of Indian rupee with respect to dollar. India, RBI is continuously supplying with the dollars. When RBI is supplying means what it is for the companies which are dealing with the forex, foreign exchange, to those companies, RBI do sell dollars which are there in the foreign currency account of the government of India, right? So by selling these, what they do, RBI get is the given company whichever is buying these dollars, they have to pay equivalent rupees. So when equivalent rupees is reaching to the RBI is releasing dollars into the economy. So that means in the market, in the foreign exchange market, rupees availability is decreasing and dollars availability, dollar supply is increasing. So because of this scenario, you are trying to create a balance wherein you do not see a heavy fall in the rupee value, but you are trying to soften it. You are trying to soften it. So this is something what RBI does is specifically to create a kind of the equilibrium between the exchange rate of rupee versus the any foreign currency, anything. Like here we're talking about dollar. So when you're talking about dollar, supply with dollars, when you are selling dollars to the foreign, these companies dealing with the foreign exchange, they will make the payment of rupees, so that in the forex market, rupee availability decreasing and dollar availability is increasing. So automatically you can see that there is a balance is being created between the demand and supply of this rupee and any foreign currency like dollar. Okay. Next, what is the scenario? How much is we are earning? How much is going out of India? How much is came into India? We'll see two different time periods. What happened to the April 2021 to different December 2021? The balance of payment. Balance of payment, I told you, two different accounts: current account and capital account. As part of the current account, that means by selling or buying the goods and invisibles, right? The total amount of money, net amount of money that is came or out, you can see that total $26.6 billion went out of the country. That means as part of the trade, our imports are lower, our imports are higher compared to our exports. So compared to our exports, our imports are higher. That is why the net amount of money, these many rupees went out of India. Okay, that is current account situation. With respect to capital account, that means investment coming into India, investment going out of India. You can see that there is a positive $90 billion. That means $90 billion more money has come into India in the form of investment, rather than Indian people taking money out of India in the form of investment. Okay, so that means in the capital account there is a plus, surplus. In the current account there is a minus. So what is the net balance of these two? The net balance of these two is that Indian economy as such has received $63.5 billion. That means in the Indian forex market during this period, there is more demand for the rupees compared to the dollars. So during that scenario, if RBI is not intervening, RBI is not taking any step, then what will happen? Definitely, rupee value is appreciated. Rupee value appreciation means what will happen to the exporters? Exporters will feel disincentivized, then exports will decrease. That is not warranted for the Indian economy. So that is why what RBI does is to maintain the the even we have an excess of these many rupees came to India, right? And these many excess rupees are there in the forex companies at the forex companies level. Then to soften again here also to the exchange rate between rupee versus dollar, what RBI does is it will purchase the dollars, right? It will purchase these dollars from the foreign exchange companies, and RBI will release rupees. So that means rupee supply is increased, dollar availability decrease. So that now you are trying to create a balance so that exchange rate is always almost maintained at the same level even after there is excess. These many $billion came into India, so that exporters will not feel that they are losing anything. They are continuously encouraged to go for exports. Okay, so this is something that is happened till April to December, and even during that period, because of the RBI intervention, we did not see that rupee value is appreciating compared to the dollar. But on the other side, what happened post December by April 29th, 2022, last month end, what happened is the total forex reserves, the foreign currency in the foreign currency account, what is the total amount of reserves are at present is it came down to 9,597 billion dollars. But we reached at one point of time on September 3rd, 2021, we reached to the peak of that number, that is 642. So that means in India, Indian government of India's foreign currency account that is lies with the RBI, the number of the forex reserves that we had is $642.45 billion. And are we maintaining all this money in the form of dollars? No. This basket is quite diversified. What are the different currencies and how many currencies the Indian forex the RBI is maintaining? RBI will never reveal it to anybody. So nobody will have that information. But at the end, they will give you a number by converting all of them into dollars, right? What is the value of total reserves that are there in the Indian foreign currency account that is being maintained by the RBI? Okay, clear. So the the total value is once upon a time, the September, it reached to 642.45. And you can see why there is an increase, because we had seen that more money is coming into India rather than going out of India. That is why. And during the time, RBI was continuously buying them from the foreign exchange companies and adding them into the foreign currency account. And because of it, you can see that once upon a time it reached to the peak of 642. And by within another 8 months, you can see that their value has come down by almost 50 billion or $40 billion, right? So why this decrease in $40 billion? It is because we had seen three specific reasons wherein we in Indian government, Indian people started paying more in the form of for the imports, we started paying more, and because of it, the dollar demand is increased compared to the rupees demands, right? And because of these specific pressures, the dollar demand is increased to supply with enough dollars in the forex market, right? That is, it has sold the dollars in the forex market, so that to bring some kind of stability or equilibrium between dollar versus the Indian rupee. Okay, so this scenario says that the wherein RBI is intervening in the exchange market in the form of supplying with the dollars. Supplying with the dollars is a scenario wherein Indian people are paying more to the forex for the imports. Okay, clear. So that is why you can see that there is a fall in the exchange rate. And if RBI did not intervene, you could have imagined a scenario. The present exchange rate, which we are considering it as very high, would have been even more higher. Okay. Next, is falling a rupee is a bad thing? Definitely, it is a bad thing. As we discussed previously, falling a rupee, what happens is imports will become costlier. We have to make more. The payment amount will be increased for the same imports. And when the imports cost is increasing means the demand for the imported products decreases. That means the consumption in the overall economy decreases. If the imported products cost is increasing, then people think that I could not afford it. I am not in a position to afford those imported products. I may not buy it. Okay. So because of it, you can see in overall economy, the demand for the imported products decreases. Demand decreases means the expenditure, that is consumption by the Indian citizens, will decrease. Consumption decreases means that it will directly affect the overall economic growth in the economy. Okay, the country's economy. Another thing is when imports become costlier, especially like oil or vegetable oils, these are all will be passed on to the consumer. Passed on to the consumer means the 1 liter palm oil, previously it used to be available at 170, now it has gone up to almost 150. Means people are paying more for the same unit of good, right? So that increase in the price of this specific good is called as inflation, right? But this inflation is something is because that specific reason in international market the prices has increased, and because of it you can see that inflation is also increased, right? So the rupee is falling down. Rupee is falling down. Because of it, we started paying more for the imports, more for the imports. And whatever more we are paying, the more we are paying, that more will be passed on to the consumer. And in the form of that palm oil, that 70 rupees is equal to 150. That passing on is because of the the falling in rupee. And finally you can see that there is inflation. And another reason is obviously as such the commodity value is also increased because of the supply is less but demand is same. Okay. And whenever inflation increases, consumption decreases, production decreases. Production decreases because inflation is increasing. Less number of people will be in a position to afford the given good. So less number of people can affordable means the demand decreases. Demand decreases means companies production has to decrease. Production decreasing means it will affect the employment, right? So these are all the things you can see the consequences are maybe with respect to fall in rupee value. Okay, clear? So definitely, is it a good thing? It is not a good thing. Fall in rupee will be helping the exporters, but more than exports, our imports are higher. As we had saw in the previous case, in the current account, our imports are higher compared to the exports. So that means the merely falling in rupee incentivizing exports means on other side we have to pay more for the imports. So that is not something conducive for the Indian economy. So always falling, steep fall in the rupee is bad thing, but minimal fall, correcting the equation imbalance between dollar versus the Indian rupee is always, that is quite something to do with the economics. But here steep fall in the rupee value means imports will become costlier and overall economy will get affected because of it. Okay, clear? So that is the end of this particular topic.